Air traffic controllers at Newark International Airport in New Jersey were, quote, traumatized after equipment failures cut off communication with planes 2 weeks ago. And now 5 controllers are out on paid leave. And customers at Newark are dealing with another week of disastrous delays. CNN's Bryn Gingras is on the ground at Newark Liberty International Airport. And CNN's Pete Montine is here with the latest. Pete, let me start with you. You've been on top of this story all day. Tell us exactly what you've learned about why exactly these delays are happening and what in the hell is going on at Newark.
Well, the FAA is now essentially confirming our reporting that really paints the best picture yet of why these delays have persisted for days. A source familiar with an incident last Monday tells me that this all goes back to a period of time when controllers in the facility responsible for flights arriving and departing from Newark Liberty International Airport lost radio communications and their radar systems for an undisclosed time last Monday. That led to 5 air traffic controllers in that radar facility to take what's called trauma leave. They are now on leave for the next 45 days, something they're legally entitled to do. I want you to listen now to the new audio we just got from liveatc.net, and I want you to hear the frustration of the air traffic controller in this Newark facility that controls flights going in and out of Newark, and he's telling a smaller plane, a general aviation plane, that he does not have the ability to see that plane on radar and to essentially go away. Listen.
We lost our radar and it's not working correctly. Radar service terminates, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. If you want a Bravo clearance, you can just call the towers when you get closer.
Okay, I'll wait for that frequency from you, okay?
Okay, no, just squawk VFR, look up the tower frequencies, and we don't have a radar, so I don't know where you are.
We also heard today from Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer, who says while the FAA has been investigating its own incident here, the Department of Transportation Office of Inspector General now has to launch a probe immediately, he says. He also points back to a move by the FAA last July in which it moved the facility responsible for Newark airspace from Long Island to Philadelphia. The whole idea there was to shore up staffing shortages. Schumer says this, in essence, backfired. There are some pretty big questions here that people are asking about. Why can't controllers be drag and dropped, essentially, from one place to another? These are location-specific jobs. It's not that easy. The FAA is not really detailing a fix in the near term right now, Jake.
And Bryn, another day of major delays at Newark International Airport. What are you hearing from customers?
Yeah, Jake, let's put it this way. If you have a flight in or out of Newark that hasn't been delayed or canceled, go outside, buy a lottery ticket right now, because that's all we're seeing on the boards. As you look at the Terminal A departures, we're in Terminal B. Now, Terminal A here at Newark typically has those domestic flights, but you can see delayed, delayed, delayed. It gets even worse when the screen changes. Terminal B, where we are, like I said, a lot of international flights, but again, some of it is open for check-in hours early, but it really is not a big surprise if you actually see that check-in too delayed. It's very rare to see a flight take off at Newark. It is that bad, and we are now into the 8th day of these disruptions for travelers, and people are at their wits' end. Actually, someone just walked by us and says, I'm going to kill somebody. They're so angry. That's what we're seeing, is anger and a lot of frustration. Take a listen to one traveler.
Now I have to kind of request time off, which sometimes that can turn into penalties for me because it's last minute. And I'm an hourly worker, so I don't get benefits. So I can't even kind of like compensate that lost time. Like, oh, I can just use my sick hours. I don't have the luxury of doing so.
Yeah, it really is the perfect storm here at Newark. We are actually having low cloud cover here at the airport. It's those issues that Pete was just describing to you. It's the fact that there's a runway actually closed here at Newark for renovations. And then it's just the antiquated system that this airline, these airports are running on. It's a big issue, and it's really just trickling down to these travelers who have, quite frankly, had enough. Jake.
The union representing air traffic controllers is speaking out about the critical staffing shortage that's causing major problems at Newark Liberty International Airport. For the 8th straight day, hundreds of flights have been canceled or delayed.
There's a lot of delays and cancellations, and now the union and a separate CNN source familiar with the situation say it is, in part, get this, because several air traffic controllers had to take a leave of absence last month after equipment problems cut off communication with the planes and left them traumatized. CNN aviation correspondent Pete Montine joins us now. I mean, I read that earlier, Pete, and I thought, How bad did it have to be that they are at the point where they are too traumatized to come to work? This is awful and scary.
These new developments really paint the best picture yet of why we've had these 8 days of delays for flights going into and out of Newark. Here is the latest. This all goes back to an incident last Monday at the key radar facility responsible for flights departing and approaching Newark. And a source familiar with that incident tells me that controllers there lost both radio communications and a picture on their radar scopes for an undisclosed time, meaning those controllers were essentially trying to do their jobs blind. They call it NORDO, no radio, which led to at least 5 controllers taking what's called trauma leave, which they're legally allowed to do. They're now off for the next 45 days. This is a huge development, and we know that the FAA has been investigating the cause of the equipment outage that triggered these staffing shortages. Just last week, the FAA acting chief told me a team has been on the ground to figure out the nature of that equipment problem, but now Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer is calling for the Department of Transportation Inspector General to launch a probe immediately. This is what he said about the outage at that Newark radar facility. He says the equipment there is aging and it must be fixed yesterday. Listen.
The technology is old and must be updated. It was one of the things that happened at Newark is a copper wire burnt. Why are we using copper wire in 2025? Have they heard of fiber?
That soundbite is a heater and he flew it right over the plate. Copper wire, he says, is the cause of this issue initially. Schumer also called out the FAA's move of that Newark radar facility from Long Island, New York to Philadelphia. The FAA did that last July in hopes of enticing new hires and shoring up its staffing problems. Schumer says it's actually made problems worse. Newark is really emblematic, though, of the air traffic control staffing problems nationwide, and the Union of Air Traffic Controllers says there's still 3,000 controllers short nationwide. They're also clarifying this one point. Last Friday, United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby sent out a memo to passengers in which he said that controllers walked off the job. That union says it's unfair because controllers were traumatized and they took this leave, once again, something that they're legally allowed to do.
Wow. That is a lot. I have to say, honestly, you're processing all of it. We did also want to ask you about, there's some new reporting you have about the Army pausing helicopter flights here in D.C.
The big thing here is this all stems back to an incident last Thursday. It was about 2:30 in the afternoon when planes were coming into Reagan National Airport, and this helicopter from the same Army battalion that was involved in that mid-air collision back on January 29th was arriving at the Pentagon, not too far away. We're talking as the crow flies, maybe a half mile, maybe not even. And so the controller in the tower there at Reagan National Airport told these flights to go around because that controller feared that these airplanes and helicopter were ultimately getting too close to one another. Nobody heard in this. Those planes came back around and did successful landings. There's been a bit of a scuttlebutt here about why the helicopter was there, if it was supposed to be flying around the Pentagon, if they were taking the scenic route, that's what the FAA initially said, or if they were not actually cleared to land at the Pentagon and told to go around once themselves. So now the big development here is that the Army says it is suspending flights by the 12th Aviation Battalion around the Pentagon and around Reagan National Airport. This is essentially a huge admission here, and the Army is now trying to backpedal to make it so that this does not come off badly on them. There's been a lot of scrutiny about helicopter flights in the D.C. area since that crash.
Yeah, wow. Pete, thank you.
Anytime.